guys here for ready for alerts and notifications. My name is Millikan, and I'm a data geek. Okay, I'm not a programmer. I am just a data geek, like I think many of the people who are here. And I'm past the beginner level, but maybe only at the middle of the intermediate level. I don't know, beginning of the intermediate level. So this is geared towards anybody who really hasn't used alerts and notifications yet. If you've already been using them, then maybe there'll be something you forgot about. I hope you'll find it useful. And I am in the department's called, or the division is called Child Protection Programs. We're part of the IU School of Medicine Pediatrics division. And the particular data that we're doing in REDCap is, the data that we're doing in REDCap is with our foster care bridge clinic. So these are kids that get referred to us from the Department of Child Services. So we do a lot of communicating with the Department of Child Services. One reason why alerts and notifications are so important. And so I'm just going to move on down. Oh, they took us back to here. We had moved on. I'm sorry. Okay. So we're going to just move on to why should we use alerts and notifications? We'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages. We may have to skip how to, depending on how long it takes. And we're going to see lots of real life examples. We have maybe 25 alerts and notifications that we're using on a regular basis in the foster care bridge clinic. And you might see little pieces of all of them. And I think in terms of lists, but they tell me that people like pictures. So there are 5 pictures here that I will explain further on why to use alerts and notifications. And, this is what my little robot brain came up with as pictures. So our first picture is actually a sample of an alert. So the big reason why we use them, our biggest, most favorite reason, is to get a PDF style report. If you're using the report writer in REDCap, that basic report writer, it produces things that look like spreadsheets. And you can do things across, or you can do things down. But we really we had several documents, and these are all fake people. Everything I show you is from our test system, and they're fake people. We wanted documents that had like a whole page of information, like a case summary on one piece of paper. So this is one reason to use alerts and notifications. You can kind of have a lot more control about what's being shown where. And so you're going to see this actual one in a minute. Actually, I'm going to show you one now. Why not? So one of the things about alerts is they are tied to your email system. And so they don't go straight to a printer, they go to email. So here's a fake kid. We're going to use this Aaliyah Smith fake kid an awful lot. And so we have this whole report that is going based on it. And it's got lots of, like, here are 2 instances, which we could have up to 5 instances on there. That's in itself, for me, a good enough reason to be using them. Another reason you might want to use alerts and notifications is for automation. You have some regularly recurring communications that you do, you can make the computer do it for you. Okay. So for example, a couple of them that we use, and we're going to go straight on into REDCap and see some of these. We get our referrals from the Department of Child Services. And so these FCMs, the family case managers, they'll start a referral and then never finish it. And we need to figure out what to do with it. I'm sure you've all had that problem before. So we have an automated alert right here that automatically sends out, hey, you started this referral. And it will give them the link and their return code. So we don't have to look that up for them. They've given us their name. They told us they started, but they didn't get finished. Or another example of automation, this is kind of one of my favorite ones, our alert number 9. We also, after we see these foster kids, we have a multidisciplinary team conference about them, a shared plan of care conference. And so we send out a message that looks like this. And it says, hi, so-and-so was seen, and we're going to talk about this kid on such and such a date. And here's who all's invited. Oh, and here's the Zoom link. Everything's happening. So it's a nice way to automate some regularly occurring tasks that maybe have a little bit of extra data built into them. Another example of one of our automated ones is a follow-up. When we know we want to do a follow-up for a kid, we'll put in, we want to see them in 3 months or after such and such a test is done. And then this reminder will go to our scheduling person to say, hey, and she said she wants it 2 weeks in advance, but we could have sent this at any point in time. But we said 2 weeks in advance of when you think you want to have your follow-up visit. Okay, over to my little robot brain pictures. And another reason why you might use alerts is for communication. You need to share new information with somebody. And so we have several samples of those in REDCap. Again, working with DCS, we need to send them information. We want to let them know an appointment got scheduled. And so, so an email will go off to the FCM or whoever it needs to go to saying, hey, wanted to let you know we scheduled this appointment for this kiddo at this time. Or another one of them is to say, uh-oh, they no-showed. Some previews here. So this kid no-showed on such and such a date. So one other reason you might be using them is communication. You just want to share some information. We have several examples in here. Sometimes it's the MRN. One of these alerts is, hey, wanted to let you know an MRN showed up on the account. Here we go. It's been updated. We added the MRN. 3 different people need to know that now, so it's been shared. And then come back over to our little goofy pictures. Another reason might be workflow. So one of the things what our docs wants to do is she wants to gather when there's an abnormal lab result. And so we give them an alert to say, hey, we know you saw this kiddo and we know you ordered labs and nothing's changed. And so we have an alert for that so that it sends them, find our lab reminder. It sends the doctor an alert that says, oh, here, let's look at the preview on this one. Actually, this might get out the previews on the outside. One of the things that's annoying, it feels like you should be able to preview from the inside as well. Okay, so we basically say, hey, we noticed, that you did a thing, and it gives them the links. They can go straight to the instance. We may have seen the kid 5 times, and this is about the 3rd instance, so this will go straight to the instance. And then my final thing is document dissemination. You can do attachments with your alerts and notifications, and so you might want to send documents out. We send blank releases of information, consents to treat, and so forth. And so some of our alerts are like that. Here we go. We look at this one. Oh, good thing these are all fake people. Hey, if you haven't already done this, send this to us. And it actually has the attachment. You know what? You can't see that in the preview. Let's go look at a real one. I have rules set up. One of the things, these are tied to your email. And so I have rules set up that automatically move things. They don't go straight to my email box. They go to something else. So I've got like a fake in test. But let's see if we can find one for this alert's so freaking old that I don't know if I'll have any test ones out here that are even in the last year. I guess I don't. But trust me, you've told it, like we'll go back into REDCap. You actually tell it on the, if we edit this, you're telling it something you want to attach. So here's like consents and releases to be completed is attached. So those are 5 different reasons why you might do this. Okay, and now let's go look at some of the advantages. And I'm not going to different picture for each one. Now you're going to get totally how I think. You're going to get lists. So some of the advantages of using these alerts and notifications. Well, it is rich text formatting. It's just like creating a Word document, and then you can do the piping. So I'm going to assume most of you know what piping is. You can put in the values of data from your database. And I'm going to tell you, create lots of calc text. do lots and lots of calculations to make this nice. So we use calc tests to create pronouns, so that when we say, hey, little Billy has this meeting, we're going to talk about him on whatever date. And it's so much that it's like creating Word, that you can just go typing straight into it. I will tell you, the RedCap team gave me some advice once that I've used many times. Sometimes I create the document I want in Word first and then copy it over to RedCap, because Word is much more robust of formatting than what's available to us in RedCap. It does work well with group emails. So all those samples I was showing you, they're from my email account, because the test system, I'm using this from our test FCBC system. They go to my email account, but in real life, they go to our foster care bridge clinic system. It works well with repeating instances. Oh, we use so many repeating instances, and RedCap's smart enough to know which one gets which one it's alerting, and it puts in the right values. I have not used events in RedCap, but I'm going to assume it's just as good with events as it is with RedCap. I don't know if that's true, but I would assume that it is. And it can use really robust logic for when to send it and who to send it to. That lab reminder that we had earlier, let's go look at this one. So if we edit this, here's all the logic that we have going into whether or not to send this. It has to have it can't be complete, and they have to have ordered a thing, and our results have to not have changed from the beginning. So those are what those 3 different sections are, but you can do really robust stuff in it. And you can also be really advanced up here. You can say, I'm not going to spend much time on how to do an alert. You can teach yourself this as you go. They're pretty simple. RedCap walks you through it, and they're just printing out a little email. So if you're sending it to yourself, you're not hurting anything. You can test up and down and all around and not hurt anything. But you can do it like when a record's saved on a specific form or survey. You can do it when conditional logic is true, or you can do both conditional and particular form. And with each one of those, you can have only once per record and everything. You can have it multiple times. I'm going to cancel out of this because I don't want to change my settings on that. Okay. Back to some of these advantages. You can use the IU secure message tag. I'm sure several of you at this point going, why are you sending all these emails around that have all this information in them? Well, the ones that are going within our team, we don't really need to use the secure message tag on. But the ones that are going off to the Department of Child Services, we totally need to use the secure message tag on, and you can, and it works really well. And in our test system, you won't see very many of them have it there. I don't even turn it on. I'll test it once or twice there, and then I move on. But our production system, almost all of them have that tag on it. You can include URLs and other smart variables to make life easier. We saw some examples of that. Also, it's multi-language management ready. One of the things that's really cool is any alert you set up, if you're using the MLM system, and we've got all of our surveys in both English and Spanish, you can have these alerts be in Spanish as well. And several of ours are. If I go back over to our test system here, one of our projects is a survey project. It is an actual research project. Yeah, this is the one I want. And so we have 3 alerts. One that says, hey, your opportunity for your gift card is about to expire. One that says, hey, you did it. Thank you. Here's your gift card. And one that tells our internal staff, hey, go do some things about this completed survey. And if we go look in the MLM, you'll see all of these. All of your alerts are there as well. You can choose under alerts, and you can choose which ones you're doing. And we're doing 2 of them here. I go over to Spanish. You can see, like, for example, here's your gift card. Oh, here. And then here's it in Spanish. Those of you who use the MLM, it isn't always as easy to read as the other parts of RedCap are, but every single last one of these. So we're like, hey, it's last opportunity in Spanish as well. Okay. You can include attachments. There's a nice logging feature. Go back over here again. There's 2 things worth logging on it. So within, just RedCap in general, you've got you've got logging, and it's going to tell us, these things happened, right? But you can include which alerts happened. And that might not be its own thing. It's kind of mixed in with other stuff. But you can also go to the email logging and this is a smaller test system, so it has less stuff in it, but you can see the actual like alert that happened. Last chance to get your $20 gift card. And you can see what it was, and you can do it by record and so forth. And then it also has, I'm going to go back over to the main foster care bridge clinic test system because it has a lot more stuff in it. When you're in your alerts and notifications, I was showing us how to do them, but there's also a notification log. So you can see just certain alerts. I want to see just alert number 9. And what's going with that? Past, maybe nothing in the future, but lots in the past. So it's got a real nice logging system. So those are some of the advantages of using alerts and notifications. And of course, automation. We have put tons of things in here if you can't tell from that big long list. Okay, now let's look at some of the disadvantages. So these are some of the things that I have personally found. There are probably other advantages and other disadvantages. And I'm going to say almost everything on this list here, I get halfway through an alert and then I get to that moment and I'm suggesting a new feature. I suggested so many new features and I haven't kept a list, so I probably have done several of them multiple times. But one of the things is all that cool, robust logic is all outside of the alert. It's not inside it. So using just the straight red cap tools, you can't put logic within the report itself. So for example, let's look at this back to email. Let's look at that real nice. This was that alert that had a nice whole case on one piece of paper, right? We have a section here for some referrals and they came back and said, we want you to only print these referrals if they're not completed. And so I don't know how to do that with the red cap tools. I'm sure you can do something HTML behind the scenes, but with the red cap tools, I don't know if you can put that kind of logic there. I can say, don't print any of these reports if they don't have completed referrals, but that would get rid of the whole case summary itself. It wouldn't just get rid of these lines. So there definitely are some disadvantages like that. We have lots of times we want, like, I think I'd like to say, give me 6 columns if there are 5 follow-ups. Give me 3 columns if there are 2 follow-ups, kind of a thing here. And I can't. This is all kind of hard-coded because I can't use that logic within the system. Another disadvantage, which is not nearly as bad as it used to be because of calc text. Again, I'm going to say build tons of calculations behind the scenes to build phrases. Like our no-show error, that the alert we had for the no-show, hey, so-and-so no-showed, it either says, we will make every effort to reschedule with the family if they haven't no-showed a lot already. But if they have so many no-shows, it says, hey, they've had this many no-shows already. And so you're going to have to reach out to us if you want us to keep working on this kiddo. But with calc text, there's a lot less duplicates, but sometimes we do have duplicates. One of our examples is that same alert where we were sending out the consents and the ROIs. We have a different form for if they're in Johnson County versus if they're in Marion County. And I don't have really logic for when to apply the attachment. So I have 2 identical alerts. Only one says, if it's Johnson County, do this one. And the other one says, if it's not Johnson County. So I guess if we don't have very many that are outside of those 2 counties, but if like Floyd County showed up, they'd get the Marion County document, to be honest. And so that can be annoying. Imagine that big, long, complicated alert having a need like that. I don't want to create multiple versions of this because every time we make a change to it, I'm gonna have to make a change in all the places. So that's one of the downsides of alerts. You can't print it on demand. You must trigger it. You can't actually say, okay, go print this case summary for this case. You have to actually, because it's tied to email, you have to actually trigger it. And some of the things we were already doing, back back into red cap here. I'm gonna just any one of our fields. Let's use Spock. That's the one that triggers that big report we were just looking at. We have at the end of every single form, we just have like a free form box that we've created, notes about this form. Every single one, medical referral notes, Spock notes, appointment notes, all of our different forms have a little box here. And it's just for us. It's not for anybody else. And it doesn't get printed anywhere or anything. And so sometimes people just like to write a thing like, I had the worst time getting this meeting scheduled or whatever. I want to give them a place to do it. So they have that there. But it's turned out to be a great way to trigger any of these alerts. So the Spock is actually, this form is what triggers one of our other things. And so we're going to use that same Aaliyah Smith and do a sample of this. So I'm going to go into her most recent Spock. I could have done it off of either one. And if I just know this thing gets triggered, that particular alert gets triggered when this form is saved with a complete status and something different. So I'm going to just put like a little X here because now it's something different. And in a minute, we will see that show up in my system. And on a side note, one of the things that we do a lot with, so we do have a group email account for the Foster Care Bridge Clinic, and we built lots of little, lots of folders and Outlook rules. So we'll say if it's this kind of alert, go straight, an Outlook rule says if you see this in the subject heading and it comes from the FCBC group mail account, automatically route it to this visit folder or automatically route it to this lab folder or what have you. And so any minute now, I think, are we in the visit folder? I think we are. Oh, there it is. Here's the report we just generated. And so that's kind of nice too, because it's not junking up my inbox anywhere. It's going straight to that. So that's kind of a side note that we use to take advantage of these alerts. But that is a disadvantage because we really just want that report. We really don't need it emailed somewhere. We have to now turn around and like save it as a PDF or print it or do something with it. And one of our documents that we are doing an alert with is a discharge summary. At the end of the clinic visit, we give them a discharge summary. And right now what happens is there's a calc text behind the scene that says, who's the doc seeing the kid? And it goes to their email and they have to print it out. And depending on which system they're using, if they're using the web version of Outlook or the desktop version, depending on what system they're using to grab their email, it prints differently. I'm sure you've all experienced that, desktop emails. And there's also that print button. And sometimes there's the control P. Each and every one of these prints a different way. Each and every one of them prints a different way. And that takes me to my last disadvantage for me. And this is also an advantage. It's both. HTML is king. So what's really happening here is HTML is what's being coded behind the scenes when you're clicking on all the things. And if you have access to an HTML expert, ask them for help because some of the things I'm doing are probably stupid. Probably an HTML expert would make it awesome. And I Google things. I just ask Google, how do I do this? And so if we go back and look at our, oh, not here. Look at this PDF style report. So one of the things I did want to try to get rid of blank lines. So we have all these spots for these referrals, but I don't want to waste a bunch of lines for it. There is an HTML code that can help collapse those. And so I did do a little bit of that behind the scenes. And so when you're in your alerts and notifications, so I'm going to go down here to alerts and notifications. I'm going to use, this is the visit summary we're just going to have. This is the Mac Daddy of all of our forms. When you're in it, okay, we can use this little button here to see it big. And this looks easy to type, but if I start typing on it right now for these, like add more lines of medical referrals, it'll all get wonky. And I end up using this little button here to see the source code and have to come down and do some source code things. Like if I'm going to add another row, I'm going to just go here and copy the little section and add my 10s there because all the same HTML things that have already been put in will still apply. And I don't know a better way to describe that because I think I'm not advanced enough. But this like border collapse thing right here is part of the joy of why this thing is working a little bit better. But the same report that doesn't look too bad, we find it acceptable. Okay, our team has found these little lines all squished together like that are good enough. I'm certain an HTML expert would get rid of those and would make it even better still. But out red cap native, just like the general use all the menus, is not going to do that for you. Okay, so those are my big disadvantages on there. Oh, I just have this note here tied to email, perhaps Twilio, et cetera, exceptions. We definitely know that there are ways you don't have to go through an email. And we actually do one of our surveys that has gift cards associated with it. We do ask them if they prefer text. And so we text them their gift cards, we text them their stuff, but because we're using Calc Text, we're not actually using Twilio. We are back into, yeah, that's where I need to be. We actually ask a question like, what is your email provider? And then this one happens in a different project. Let me zip over to it. We ask them, what's your email provider? And then you'll see here, it's there. It looks like an email, but this is really sending an MMS text message. So these are mostly people in my office or fake ones. You can see Ting. I use Ting an awful lot. I don't know if Ting's a real thing. Okay, so those were the advantages and disadvantages. I'm going to move on. I'm going to do just a couple of minutes, like maybe 3 minutes or something, on how-tos. I really did assume that you've understood piping and all of that already, but let's go on in and look. If you were just starting from scratch, you know, it's on the gray bar down here. You're going to pick alerts and notifications, and you would add a new one. And then start doing a thing with it. And I don't want to really add a new one right here, but let's just pick one and title it, figure out when it's going to be triggered, do all these things, come down, what's your schedule. I will kind of caution you on the when to send an alert. So you may have experienced this in automatic survey invitations as well. If you tell it to send it so many days after it's triggered, so like I'm saying, send this alert 7 days after a thing happened. If the thing that happened is like just a date field, 7 days later is going to be midnight on that date field. And so you maybe don't want a text message going to your participants at midnight. So definitely make sure you're testing well and doing that. But so when to send an alert, how many times, you have tons and tons of options. You can choose an expiration. Then we have so many calculated email fields as well. So things come from our group email account, but who they're going to, you know, you've got all the emails of the people inside your department, plus you have all these different variables of people that are associated. There are a lot of people in a foster kids corner. Let me just say that. And so all these different people are ones that you could be sending it to as well. And then you start typing, add your attachments, and you go. So it's kind of simple that way. Okay, so I really don't want to get too much into the how-tos. I really think you could just do it on your own. Oh, and then I guess the one other thing that's worth noting, you know, because it is like you are going to use piping on things. Looking at this big giant one that we had open a minute ago, it's just like piping. You're using your little brackets, you know, to get things in the space where you want them. Okay. And then real life examples. I just showed you tons and tons of real life examples. I'm going to show you one or two more that are pretty interesting, I think. And you may not even need to do them anymore, but I was so proud of them. Some of you may have already done them yourself. I don't know, but we have one project. We have a book nook. Okay, so we have a grant where we give books to these kiddos and their caregivers, and we want to do some surveys about whether or not they read the book. And so the intention is that we we ask them, did you read the book? And we're going to keep asking that question over and over and over and over again forever until they say no, or I'm not going to stop asking. Okay. And so we're creating a next instance every time on that. So we're creating tons and tons of did you read? And then after they read it, after they finally say yes, then it's through the survey queue, siphons them, puts them into, okay, which was this a caregiver book? Was this a child's book? And we do give some to medical students. So was this a learner book? And we ended up using alerts and notifications for that. Those of you who attended Alexander's update, what's new when they did their most recent thing, some of this can be done in automatic survey invitations now, but that wasn't the case before. And so we definitely were using alerts for that. And so this did you read yet, when you look at it, it actually has a next instance on it here. It was always creating something new. So you could, in limited situations, make the alert, give them a link that will create even a new instance beyond what was happening before. So not just piping, but also the smart variables. You can use all the little tools available to you for this. So I kind of rushed because I wanted to make sure that we had time to go between rooms on the next one. I've gotten through, I think, my coolest examples. We have them automatically send off digital gift cards. We have just about everything that's automated. The only thing we want to automate that we haven't with alerts and notifications that we know for sure we really want to is we really want to send the information to families where we say, here's a map, here's where we are, here's the time of your appointment and all of that, because we would have to send it secure mail, and we don't think families will actually open secure mail. I mean, you guys know how horrible it is to open those. You hate getting them, right? And they do too. So that's probably the only one that we haven't automated that we really want to. But I'm sure there are others. We'll have a few more along the way. So, any questions? Yes.
So those reports that go through email, I noticed it's not like come out there. Well, that's all right because it's
Yeah, so the question was, they noticed all the PHI in these reports that didn't say a secure message tag on them, or it was okay going, and is it okay to go within the IU system? So what I've been told, yes, that within the IU system and including IU Health, so that between IU and IU Health, I can send information like that. They don't want us storing our information that way. So you definitely don't want to store that report like in a folder saying this is where we're keeping our case files, for example. But it's an absolutely fine way to send the information on to the next person. And actually what we are doing, we send it to our group email, and then the person in the group email saves it to a PDF and stores it in the appropriate storage place, and it comes out of the group email. But if we're sending a copy of that, so we have some of those, that one doesn't, but we have some that do go off to the Department of Child Services. Those all get the secure message tag on them. And of course we have a release that we're allowed to give them this information. So I like that question. Thank you. And our test system too. I showed you a lot of test ones. Our test, I have secure message. I think only on 1 or 2 of them still in test. I take it off of there because it's all fake people. We don't use a copy of production for our test. We use a lot of well, Chuck Norris was one of the examples I had up at the very beginning. We use fake people. Other questions? Okay. Well, I hope that you have what you need to maybe go out and try doing some reports. We very much like having the ones that are like this one, the PDF style ones. They make us happy. Thank you. Pardon me? I built this, yeah. Yeah, so what I did is so the question was, did I build this one? Yes, I did with my limited knowledge. I did actually we had a PDF that looked like this before we were in REDCap. And I went through lots of trials to get it right. We did actually end up using the REDCap team's suggestion of copying it straight. I moved it from PDF into Word, and then from Word to there. You can go straight from PDF to REDCap. You can do any tools that you're familiar with. There's a version, like if you just go look in the right place, you can find even the HTML version of it. and copy it from source code to source code. And I've done that too. You know, you may have noticed we have a test system and a production system. And when I'm moving things to production, I copy the source code to make it easier to do. So on this thing right here, you know, I think I mentioned, here's the source code. I do a Control A, Control C, and then zip on over into production, do the same thing, pick up the little symbol there, and then Control A, Control V, just paste over it so that it has all the little intricacies if I had to do some special little HTML thing. But yeah, I did code this one. And I have to tell you, this is our biggest one and our hardest one, and it comes from about 10 different instruments. All the data comes from all these different places. And almost all the effort is on this section right here, trying to remove blank lines. And actually, there's a lot of like calc text behind the scenes. So this immunizations provided, well, we report immunizations in several different ways. And so the wording they want on this report is different than the wording they want on a discharge summary, and it's different than the wording we might use on an annual report. And so the calc text figures out what wording do we want for this document, and it builds the appropriate language. Let me go back into here. Yes. Yes. You could definitely embed some images. As a matter of fact, one of ours, pardon me? Oh, thank you. Yes, the question was, can you embed images in your report? And so here's a sample of our discharge summary. This one's for Chuck Norris. And we have like a little logo for the foster care bridge clinic. And so it's embedded right there. In this case, it's the same image every time. So I do have it embedded in the text, you know, in the coding for the alert itself. If you had a different image for everyone, like a child's photo or something, I think you could still put that in there. You'd be saying, give me this variable, you know, this little bracket, photo bracket, and do it. You're welcome. And I am going to do one other thing here in REDCap is this. Go back into the test version. I know we have 2 minutes and I need to rush. We have a lot of things. A lot of them I just dumped into this one called data summary. There are tons of calculated text, equation, just so I can get those. Here's the pronoun, the possessive pronoun with caps. There's a possessive pronoun. Here's a lowercase, just so I can get phrases to print the way I want them to print on these things. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. And I hope you have a productive rest of your day.